It's a regular school board meeting, Monday, December 12th, 6:30 PM. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We should really do roll call before. Do you want to do that first?
It's up to you.
Okay, let's do roll call, please. Is Jamie?
Yep.
Deb Polly,
Here.
Ryan Dainert, Lauren Pedersen. Here. Connie Hennon.
Here.
Sarah Lanen.
Here.
Molly Maniak.
Here.
Rob Langheim.
Here.
Kaylin Fiery.
Here.
Thank you. We have a couple Jordan Pride Awards. Superintendent Evenson.
We are honoring Caleb Sharp and Kendra Kruger. They were unable to join us the last two regular board meetings, but we wanted to make sure that they were honored. And so we have Jordan Pride Awards that Coach Nylander will get to them. They just had an amazing cross-country season. Kendra set school records, conference runner-up, section 2AA runner-up, all-state third place, the highest Jordan finisher of all time, and academic all-state. Caleb tied school record with Owen Kaiser this year. He was a conference champion, all section 7th place at the 2AA or the 2A championship, and then state participant. He was in the top 25 for the 3200 before falling back. So he and Kendra just had outstanding seasons. I know they couldn't join us, but I just felt it was super important that they get Jordan Pride Awards. So we will make sure that Coach Nylander gets them their certificate. So congrats to them.
And our athletic director, activities director told me that he would get pictures of them after he gives them their certificates. Okay, on to consideration of the agenda. I don't believe there's any changes from when it was first published, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Motion to approve.
Who was that, Molly? Molly and Connie. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those, I suppose we have to do roll call. Roll call, please.
Lauren Pedersen. Yes. Connie Hennon.
Yes.
Sarah Lanen.
Yes.
Molly Maniak.
Yes.
Rob Langheim.
Yes.
Deb Polly.
Yes. Public comments. I don't believe anybody requested to speak, and if there's anybody here for the truth and taxation, that would be later. So, okay, on to consent agenda items. We have a lot of policies. We have our regular minutes, monthly finance donations. We have the Jordan Pride boosters for expenses for Jordan schools, $20,000. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Judy and Gratian Walter, JES Music, 25. Marlene and Austin Wilson, JES Music, $25. We have some new hires, a leave of absence, a resignation, couple resignations, and then we have our fall coaching contract renewals, and I'm not going to read them all. So I'll entertain a motion to approve consent.
So moved.
Sarah, is there a second?
Second.
Rob, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Lauren Pedersen. Yes. Connie Hennon.
Yes.
Sarah Lanen.
Yes.
Molly Maniak.
Yes.
Rob Langheim.
Yes.
Deb Polly.
Yes. Okay, on to our action items. Review and act on our FY22 audit. And I will turn it over to,
Our representatives from Ide Bailey
yes,
are here this evening.
thank you for being here. Yes. Sorry, I'm having back spasms, so if I act funny, that's what's going on.
All right, well, my name is Bradley Van Dynes. I'm an auditor with Ide Bailey, so I was the in charge for the audit this year. And then I also brought Mitch Woldvogel with me as well. He's here for quality assurance purposes to make sure that I stay on task and don't get too crazy up here. So basically what I have for you tonight, and I think you all have a copy in front of you, the executive summary, similar looking document to what you reviewed last year. We do that intentionally so that hopefully you get some benefit of recurring information. You get like a 10-year history in a lot of it. So see where the district has been, where it is, and hopefully where it's going in the future. And then you also, I think, have copies of the full financial statements in front of you as well. So if you're interested in some light reading of 95 pages tonight, have at it. But otherwise, I'll just jump into the executive summary here, and feel free to stop me at any point, too, if any questions do come up. So first and foremost, we'll start with the audit results. So I'm on the third page of that document then, or second page, I suppose, after the title there, titled Audit Opinion. Basically, the district for fiscal year 22 received an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. As a school district, that's exactly what you're looking for. Basically, we're saying financial statements were fairly presented, didn't find material misstatements, things like that. The only thing I do like to point out here is just with the size of a school district like this, there's no way that we could possibly test every single transaction that occurs throughout the year. So this opinion is based on a sample from a variety of different areas, and we test a little bit of everything, but from that testing, unmodified opinion, that's a good thing. Switching ahead then to the next slide, similar to what it's always been here at the Jordan School District, you have more than $750,000 in federal expenditures, which requires a separate audit known as a single audit, where basically we're testing the compliance of different federal programs just to make sure that the money was spent in an appropriate manner. So for this year, we actually tested 2 programs. We tested the child nutrition program, which has been tested regularly here, and then some of the COVID money, there was some ESSER dollars in there as well, Education Stabilization Fund, and so we tested that program as well. So from that federal testing, again, an unmodified opinion there, no issues with those 2 federal programs that were tested. But this will just give you some information on ultimately why we're doing it. Again, spending over $750 triggers this. And then of that $3.3 million, we tested a little over $2 million of that total expenditures between the 2 programs. Looking ahead here to the audit findings then. Similar to past years, just one finding this year. Basically, for efficiency purposes, we as the auditors prep the financial statements. The schedule of expenditure of federal awards, that's just the listing of the federal spending, essentially. So that's just another schedule within the financial statements. But that was the only finding this year. Nothing came up with Minnesota legal compliance or with the federal testing. So, all right, the next slide here mentions GASB 87. This was a new standard this year. This was really the only change that occurred in the financials. Not something you're going to see at the fund level, so I know a big focus for the school board will be the general fund. Nothing would have changed there. This is specifically a reporting thing for government-wide. Basically what this did was this took leases that were considered operating, meaning in the past it all went to rent expense. On your general fund, that's still the case. Again, no change there. On the government-wide reporting, basically we added an asset called right-of-use asset, and then there's an offsetting liability for that related to the lease. So if you're looking at the fixed asset schedule, I only point this out because you'll see there's a new line item called right-of-use asset. That's what that's related to, is this new GASB 87 change. All right. Next slide here, we'll look at the cash and investments for the district, and again, gives you that 10-year history. So you can see a little bit of an increase there from fiscal year 21 to 22, and a lot of that's just going to have to do with a lot of the federal funding that's been coming in over the last couple years with COVID money, kind of going back to fiscal year 20 there. And so that'll give you a trend there, but this will just give you a snapshot of where you're sitting in terms of cash balances. All right, going forward here, these next couple slides will focus on the general fund, which is where the vast majority of the district's operations are. So this slide here is important. This shows your ADMs, or your students served, essentially. So this will give you an idea where that's at. The reason this number is important is because the number of students will have a direct correlation with some of the state funding that the district receives. So we show this so that if you have any big fluctuations, a lot of times that this will be the first place we'll look if things are going up or down. So you can see there a slight decrease between 21 and 22, but again, we'll give you the 10-year history of where those student counts are at. All right, slide 12 then on here looks at the budget to actual. So some different columns here, obviously you have your final budget. If you look at that actual column there, that'll give you revenues and expenses for the year in the general fund. The far right then, where it says, for instance, in the revenues, you see that 0.7% positive variance. Basically what that's saying is we received a little bit more money than what the final budget was set at. And then same on the expenses, you have a positive variance, means we spent a little bit less than what that final budget was set at. All in all then, if we look down in that third column, overall fund balance in the general fund increased by a little over 500,000, bringing you to an ending fund balance of 4.1 million in the general fund. And if you recall from previous years, and we'll look at it in a couple slides here, that 4.1 is broken down into several different categories of what that all represents. Next slide, I won't talk about it too much, but basically district has a positive fund balance. The 4.1 million is positive. That's a good thing. Essentially, we'll, if we have years like COVID where maybe revenues are a little bit shorter than we expect, gives you a little bit of a cushion for things like that. When you go out for bonds, you typically get better ratings, things like that. So this just highlights some of those positive bonuses there. The next slide, slide 14, this will talk about some of those categories we talked about here. So anything that says restricted in front of it, basically that's fund balance that's set aside by some sort of outside organization, typically the state. And they're saying, hey, this money is there, you can only use it for this particular bucket. So that's not necessarily free spending money. Your non-spendable, that's going to be things like inventory and prepaid. So those are items that offer value to the district, but it's not in the cash form. You can't spend it. And then your unassigned budget there, the unassigned fund balance at the bottom, that's sort of your free spending general operations for the school district, and that's at the discretion of the board in terms of how those funds are used. So that'll give you a snapshot of how that 4.1 though is spread out to all those different categories. The next slide here then breaks it down into the one titled fund balance categories. Again, I won't touch on this too much, but if you're curious in more detail of what each one of those categories represents, this will just give you a brief definition there about what each category is used for. We'll switch to one more slide here, looking at total fund balance. So again, this gives you that same 10-year snapshot where fund balance is. You can see pretty good increase there since fiscal year 20. But this will give you kind of that trend over the overall general fund balance is headed. Slide 17, won't talk too much about the first couple bullets. Those are just different, I'll say, state recommendations for fund balance policies. At the end of the day, the only one that really matters is the district's policy, which is the last bullet on this slide, which says that the board's goal is to have a minimum unassigned fund balance of 12% of basically total general fund expenditures. So for this year, that would have been an unassigned fund balance of about 2.7 million. And so if we go to the next slide, we can see what that actually looked like. And so for fiscal year 22, the district had an unassigned fund balance of about 2.8 million. So you were above that 12% threshold. The nice thing about the fund balance policy, and what I always point out with it, is that no one's ever going to come in. No one's monitoring this other than the school board, essentially. The state's never going to come in and say, hey, you're way above, you're way below. It's simply a tool for the board to monitor that fund balance and say, here's where we want to be. Some districts set it as a floor and say we don't want to be below it. Some will set it really high and say that's our goal. There's no right or wrong answer to it. It's simply a tool for you to just kind of keep an eye on where things are at and give you a measurement, essentially. All right, so that was everything general fund related. Again, that's most of where the district spending comes from in activity. A few other slides here. This slide will just show the fund balance for the community service fund. And where that fund balance is at. So these are dollars that are there specifically for various community service programs. You'll see there's kind of an increase there from 20 to 22. A lot of that's going to be related to different federal funding. And obviously in 2020 with COVID, we had a lot of programs that couldn't operate just because of social distancing and things like that. So as those programs start to come back, you'll see a little bit more activity in this fund as we get more and more back to normal there. The next slide then looks at the food service fund. So this fund here, the last couple years, and you see the big increase this year for fiscal year 22. A lot of that has to do with the last 2 years the federal government's been offering free meals for all students. Typically that reimbursement rate's been significantly larger than what a district would normally charge for a meal. So fund balances have been growing in most districts' food service fund. That red line there indicates essentially the state initially had a max that said they don't want food service funds to be a a money-making profit center for a district. It's there to offer a service for students. It's not necessarily meant to generate a large profit. So the red line represents the maximum fund balance that the state wants to see. Now, you'll see that you're above it for fiscal year 22. I think in every one of my districts, they've been above that red line this year. And again, it's because of those reimbursement rates with the federal meal program. And so with that, whenever you're above that red line, and I don't know, maybe Amy can touch on it, sometimes the state reaches out and they just want to plan in terms of how we're going to spend that down. So whether that's upgrading kitchen equipment or things like that. In some districts, I've had districts where they've done entire kitchen programs and they're still above that. So I think the state's being pretty lenient in terms of that because, again, the funding rate has just been so incrementally larger than what a normal operation would look like. But just if you're wondering why there's a big spike there, that's what it's coming from. It's coming from those federal meal programs. And starting in fiscal year 23, I believe we went back to normal meal rates, and so that should start to work itself out a little bit. And then the last one here I have, in terms of other funds, looks at the debt service fund. And this is simply just fund balance that's available to make debt payments as they come due. So this will just fluctuate depending on what payments you had due each year, if you have new bonds, new borrowings, things like that. And then I believe, is this the last slide? It is. This will give you a glimpse of your expenditures per student, and it'll compare it to other districts across the state. So the blue line there will show you where your 2022 expenditures were. In terms of gathering the state data, that doesn't exist for 22 yet, so we give you a 2021 comparison. So that red line there is the state average. The orange line on the far right of each column is state average for school districts similar to Jordan's size. And I believe that range is 1,500 to 2,000 students, something like that, in terms of the breakout that the state provides. Again, no right or wrong comparison here. This is just a glimpse of where it's at in terms of, similar schools to your size and where you stack up with that. So I'll give you that information there. And then that is the end of the executive summary. So I guess based on that, any questions that I can answer for anybody? I know it's exhilarating stuff, so.
I just want to say, I thought the report was so well done and understandable and very clear and good news to the district, with nice fund balance for our superintendent and Amy, and for all the work you do, so nice fund balance. Is there anything that we as a board should be watching for, cognizant of, in light of the fact that the COVID money was one-time money, and here we are?
Right. I don't think so. I think, like I said, the biggest change you're going to see is going to be just in that food service fund where you had the big spike this year. It's been, if we went back to that slide, it was pretty low, that fund balance for the years before. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. That's the purpose of the fund. You want it to be self-sufficient. You don't want to have to take money from the general fund to cover losses in the food service fund. But with that red line, you don't want the food service fund to generate tons of money either. So it's kind of that happy balance. And so I think that's where you'll see the biggest changes now that that meal program is done. You'll see that start to come down a little bit, and we'll get back into a more normal routine with food service. In terms of the other programs like the ESSER money, the gear money, I don't think you'll see a big change because a lot of that revenue that came in is all still being spent. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's still more money that'll be spent in fiscal year 23. So I think we'll still have some single audit testing and all that next year. And then beyond 23, we'll just see what that looks like. But I wouldn't say there's anything alarming or anything you have to be concerned about. Just aware of the fact that a lot of the revenues you've had, at least on the federal side for the last few years, you'll see a decrease there, but you'll also see a decrease in that spending once all that money has been spent down, basically.
Other questions?
I just want to let the general public know is we always pride ourselves on being fiscally responsible and our policies to stay within our budget and to keep our back door covered, and we've done that. And I think when the district looks at growth that's coming or projects that are coming, know that we really live within our means, and this audit report shows it.
I always like the graph that compares us to other schools our size, and the fact that our biggest investment is in the classroom, I think says a lot about our district. So. Any other questions or comments? Lauren, did you have anything? Guess not. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And yeah,
Yes.
if you ever see anything in here that you want different, or if there's other graphs that you'd be interested in, certainly let us know or let Amy know, and
Okay.
we can make changes for future years if there's other information you're interested in seeing too. So
I really liked it. I really liked the format of the report a lot, so.
I always like talking about numbers. So
Well,
thank you for having us.
Thank you for all your work on the audit, too. So, this is an action item, so we need to approve the audit as presented. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Connie, I'll give the second to Lauren. Okay, further questions or comments?
I think the kudos need to go to Amy and Nikki in the finance department of our district because they are on top of it. Amy goes above and beyond with her finance reports for giving us graphs and being here at meetings to explain things. And I think their professionalism leads by example, and we really appreciate that, and we really are proud of you. So thank you, Amy and Nikki.
Yes. Great, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Sarah Lanen. Molly Maniac.
Yes.
Rob Lingheim.
Yes.
Deb Pauley.
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen. Connie Hennon.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, now on to the exciting part of our night, our truth in taxation presentation. Ms. Haferman.
Wow, it's that time of year again, so we're going to have our Truth in Taxation public meeting. Ready? Okay, next slide. Oh, next slide. Okay. So Minnesota law requires every school district to and cities and counties to have a truth in taxation hearing. So one of the important parts of that law requires a mailed notice to each property owner in the county which describes the tax levy proposed by the city, county, and school district and what percentage increase such a levy would mean in dollars. A second part of the law pertains to the truth in taxation public meeting for each taxing district. You are here tonight as part of the school district's public meeting process. Earlier this evening, community members had the opportunity to speak during the public portion of the comment. So one of the requirements is we're going to discuss the proposed property tax levy for taxes payable in 2023. We're going to provide and discuss information on the current budget, which is for this fiscal year of 22-23. And then the public must be given a reasonable amount of time to comment on the proposed property tax levy and budget and to ask questions. So some points to remember, our revenue formulas are set by the state legislature, except for the voter-approved referendums. Local levy and state aid mix are set by the state legislature. An increase in local taxes does not necessarily mean an increase in revenues for the school district. So first, we're going to go over our current school year budget. So our school district is required as well as every other school district, we do fund accounting. So there's the general fund, the food service fund, community service fund, building construction fund, and the debt service fund. So the funds that have a tax levy component are the general fund, the community service fund, and the debt service fund. So the general fund, the revenue is based on student enrollment. The local referendum levy is part of the general fund. This provides for classroom instruction, instructional supplies, special education, and state federally mandated programs, extracurricular activities, pupil transportation, facilities operations and maintenance, and capital expenditures, and also long-term facilities maintenance. Fund 2 is the food service fund, and that's just the school breakfast and lunch programs. Fund 4 is the community service fund. So this is levy based on the adult population in the district. Early childhood levy is based on the number of children under 5 years of age. And these dollars provide for enrichment programs for any age level that are not part of the K-12 education program. It provides for early childhood family education, provides for school readiness, and also adult basic education. Fund 7 is the debt service fund. So this is based on annual debt retirement schedules for the districts. The annual levy is the payment of the principal and interest when the bonds are due. The current debt is a result of the voter-approved bond issues for the 2014 middle school and addition of the CIRC. The district has chosen, a couple years ago, we refunded or refinanced portions of this debt, and we saved the taxpayers millions of dollars in interest for the life of the bond. So as you can see, the 2023 original budget, so for 2020, for the general fund, we had a decrease in revenues of about 2.6%. In the food service, we had a decrease about 39.82%. The community education fund, a decrease of about 15.47%, and the debt service about 5.27%. A lot of this is due, as Bradley said, because of the federal funds. We're no longer going to be getting as much revenue as we did in the past for the past couple years, so that's now going to catch up to us, but you'll also see a decrease in expenditures. So where does our revenue come for schools? So as you can see, I have to get to my page. Local revenues is about 14%. Federal revenue, because of all the federal dollars, was about 6%, and the state aid is 80%. So now for our expenditure budgets, so compared from 21-22 to the adopted budget in 22-23, expenditures we expect expenditures to go down about 2.11%. The food service expenditures to go down about 13.61%. Community education about 6.35%, and the debt service about 22%. And again, a lot of it has to do with the ESSER funds because they're less, and so we're not going to have as many expenditures due to that. So how are our general dollars spent? So expenses incurred in the operation of the district are paid from the general fund. So according to the expenditures that we have budget in fiscal year 22, the district and school administration was 5.19%, support services was 3.92%, regular instruction was 45.45%, vocational 1.81%, special ed 21.48%, instructional support services 3.76%, pupil support 6.92%, sites and buildings is 10.9%. So as you can see, we're spending the majority of our money in regular education, which is where we want to see it being spent. And this is just another outlook or another pie chart of it. So the majority of 60% is spent on salaries, 17% is employee benefits, 16% is purchase services, and then also supplies and capital expenditures. So as Bradley's chart stated, our unassigned fund balance for ending year June 30th, 2022, the unassigned is $2.82 million. The restricted fund balances add up to be about $1,053,000. Operating capital is at $36,000, and then the non-spendable is about $189,000. So now we're going to talk about the school district levy. So the levy that we're talking about tonight is the 22 payable 23 levy. It's certified tonight, which is 2022. It's going to be collected in 2023, but we're not going to recognize this revenue until fiscal year 2024. So authority for school levies. A school district levy must be either set by state formula or voter approved. Factors impacting tax change, issues driven by legislative decisions such as change in sales tax ratio, change in tax capacity rate structure, or LTFM money. Issues determined by district voters or voter-approved building bond issues or voter-approved excess levy referendums. Local factors, inflationary pressure on the real estate market, abatements, property improvements not previously taxed, change in individual assessed market value, or possible change in property classification. Next slide. So our local operating referendum is $724 per pupil unit, and that's what every school district in the state is allotted if we don't have a voter-approved operating levy in place. So comparison of certified payable 23 levy with proposed payable. So we're asked, so in 2022, the actual for general fund was 2.6 million, community service was 136,000, and debt redemption was 3.1 million. So the proposed levy for 23 is 2.623 million for the general fund, community service of 137,000, and debt redemption of 3,098,000. So as you can see, our total levy across the board decreased by about 0.40%. This chart just tells where the levy is, where we place the levy. So there's a levy category for everything. It's either local optional, there's transition levy, and then as you can see across the board, there's operating capital, achievement and integration levy dollars, reemployment insurance dollars, LTFM levy dollars, safe school levy dollars, career and tech, OPEB. It's a lot like the restricted funds, and that just shows where the levy dollars are put. And the same with community education. There's a community education, just the basic across the board. There's early childhood family education, home visiting, school age care, and adjusted for, and then there's always adjustments from prior years. And the debt levy, that's just the debt service fund. So as you can see again, the total debt levy decreases about 0.4%. So the total levy decreases by about 0.4%. The majority of the homes in the Jordan district had an increase in their property value. Because of the increase in property values, referendum market value increased, and also the tax capacity increased. So the impact, this chart just shows the impact of the payable 23 school district levy on taxpayers. So if a homeowner had in 2022, that home was valued at $200,000. In the payable 23 levy, it could be valued at about $250,000, which would amount in a 1.67% change. This chart is actually from PMA, and this just gives a tax history for homes across the board. So and it also gives their home value. So again, like in a payable 2016, a home that was valued at $252,000 today could be valued at $400,000, just based on what the county did. And so like last year, that same home could have had a property tax payment of $1,203. This year, it would go up maybe by $6. So, whereas pursuant to Minnesota statutes, the school board of the Jordan School District, Jordan, Minnesota, is authorized to make the following proposed tax levies for general purposes. Maintenance or the general fund, $2,623,800.51. Community Service Fund, $137,229.45. The Debt Service, $3,098,434.53, for a total proposed school tax levy of $5,859,464.49. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Amy? Okay. So this is one where we certified a levy for the max.
Yep.
You want to explain that, Amy?
So that's the
Please.
next action item.
Mhm.
So our levy, the school board levy, has to be certified to the state of Minnesota by December 29th. So tonight I'm asking you to certify the max, which is what I just read, for a total levy, a maximum levy of $5,859,464.49, which is a 0.4% decrease from last year.
Okay, any questions? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution to certify the levying to the max of $5.859 million. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Lauren, is there a second?
Second.
Molly, any questions or discussion?
You know, I just want to say, Amy, thank you very much for presenting that. You are oh so crystal clear, because it's such touch up our concept sometimes that, and you always just make it so understandable, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great. Further comments or questions? Okay, if not, roll call, please.
Sarah Lanen,
Yes.
Molly Maniak,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Deb Polly,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Connie Hennon.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. On to item 7.4, resolution relating to determining the necessity of issuing general obligation bonds and calling for a special election thereon. Superintendent Evenson.
Chair Polly, members of the board, this evening, prior to action on a resolution, I'd like to give just a brief update and take us through kind of the progress that we have had moving really with our monthly work to date to get to this evening. So in October, we engaged in a community survey, and actually this work, I would say, began way back in April. When we started working on our strategic planning, one of the things that was crystal clear was really specific messaging around our facilities. Our public was very clear in that work that they wanted us to pay attention and do some work at our elementary school and also pay attention to enhancing safety and security at some of our sites. That work then continued following our strategic planning. That actually was pride in our facilities, was one of our strategic objectives in our strategic plan process. And we made the decision as a district to look a little deeper into that and expand our survey to the full school community. And so from September 23rd through October, I think 24th, we had a public survey go out, and we had over 900 responses, which is just incredible. We had such high engagement from our community members. And again, very clear direction came regarding our facilities priorities, specifically with our elementary and specifically in a remodel of the elementary with expansion for future growth and opportunities for our students. Additionally, enhancing secure entrances at our elementary and at our high school were very clearly communicated. As we looked even deeper into the data, we found that 50% likelihood of passing a bond referendum, that threshold was crossed at an amount smaller than $36 million. And what we find is that support often increases for a plan when you are below that threshold. And so we began looking at refining that plan, taking a look at what we could accomplish with that dollar amount. And I will say, as a board, one thing I heard repeatedly from board members in a very consistent voice is that if we were going to engage in a survey, we would be very intentional in listening to our public. And those 900 responses really charted our path for this, and I feel like you've been very responsive to that. So at the November regular meeting, our school board, you gave us direction to begin working with our consultants to submit the review and comment. We'll be working on that. That will be submitted in early January. That is required by the Department of Education. In addition to that, we started thinking about and working on what possible bond resolution language, election resolution could look like, that language. And we were asked to bring that forward in December, and that is this evening. In November, we finalized that budgetary goal. Again, we knew we needed to be less than 36 million, but we also knew with the very specific things we heard from our public about what we needed to accomplish, that it was going to require quite a bit of funds. And so we landed at a dollar amount, and we landed on some proposed ballot language, which you will see tonight. The other piece, again, is ensuring the scope of the projects are aligned with that budget, but also educational adequacy is super important. Making sure that whatever we do, we are doing the best for our students so they have every opportunity possible. And so where do we go from here? Again, this evening at the very next piece of this meeting is board action. We'll be asking you to approve a resolution relating to determining the necessity of issuing a general obligation bond and calling a special election. Our date is April 11th, and the dollar amount is $34,990. And so that is what you will be considering. You can see the specific language. As a board in our work session, you were instrumental in providing input and feedback on that language. because we want to make sure that that language is very clear to the public. So when we have that special election, people know what they're voting on. That's really important. So should the board take action this evening and adopt that resolution, again, I wanted to make sure and note our planning goals. So we will stay in alignment with survey feedback. We'll be improving the educational adequacy, renovating the 1974 wing at JES, planning for future growth, classroom addition, I believe 6 classrooms is what our goal is. Gymnasium addition, a full-size court is important to us there. Cafeteria, we have outgrown our cafeteria at the elementary considerably, and so expanding and having a new cafeteria and multi-purpose addition is instrumental. Also, our early learning services, we need to expand the amount of space that they are able to utilize on a daily basis. So taking a look at what their space looks like. Our early learning programs are the first time our families are able to really engage in our district when their littles start to become of that age. And so we want to make sure we have every opportunity there. And then, of course, your basic facilities needs, windows, doors, restrooms, and last but certainly not least, the secure entrances at the elementary and the high school. So here in front of you, again, these are not actual renderings. We have not engaged with architects at this time. But this is specifically when you think about square footage, does it fit? What could that look like? This isn't the first time as a board you've seen this sketch, but I wanted to make sure to include it in our conversation. I think the things that are super important to note, again, you see that ELS space, that more than doubles the space that they currently have. You can see in the purple, you can see that additional classroom space. You can see the addition of the gym and the gymnasium. You can see improved security up front of the elementary school. We'd be looking at a remodel of that darker aqua space. At this time, it likely wouldn't be as significant of a remodel that we'd be knocking down walls. That wouldn't align to our budget with that, but we would be able to renovate that space and make it pretty great. And then you can see that lighter aqua space. That's been a problematic space at the elementary for many years. Even when I taught there, some of those classrooms, you have to walk through a classroom to get to a classroom. It's super awkward in its design. I'm sure it was designed with the best of intentions when that happened, but it's not amazing to work with. So that would have a more significant remodel, and we'd be looking at reallocating that space for our special programs. So pretty excited for some of the things that we could accomplish. And then again, these are not actual renderings. We have not engaged with an architect, but I do want to note that we are taking a look at how we might improve our traffic flow. Maybe rerouting buses to a separate place, expanding, the staging area for cars and drop off. We really need parking at the elementary. Even our staff right now sometimes they don't have a place to park. So we need to expand the parking facility as well. And again, in relation to the high school, you can see that magenta color there as well, looking at how we might enhance that secure entrance so that folks aren't walking directly into our commons and lunchroom space when they enter our facility. And so reallocating some of that space right up front, and I think that's going to be pretty exciting. And again, we've not engaged with an architect. These are not actual renderings, but in terms of the square footage, this is where that would work. Also, I thought it was important to link the tax impact. I know as a board, you have been very conscientious with that. That was a specific question in our survey, asking what threshold our community really had for the tax impact. And so I know that was something that weighed heavily as a board in your decision making. But we wanted to just show what the annual impact and what the estimated monthly impact would look like. And then in relation to timelines and requirements, you can see, again, we've been working on this for a really long time. That study phase really is the strategic planning. Again, that was one of the first things that we started to hear as we engaged with the community and even before. And you can see that process and where we are. And then you can see tonight's date is in bold, December 12th. Tonight is when we ask for that formal action for the election resolution. Moving forward. And then we would submit the review and comment early in January. And again, special election would be April 11th. One thing I would note too, in relation to construction, based on the scope of the project, one of the questions that we might get is, really, what does that look like for us? Do we have to get out of school early? Do we have to, start later? What does that look like? Another action item this evening actually is our school district calendar. With the shifts that we're proposing for that, that is going to be amazing. That will help us a lot in terms of that. And then also some of that construction, for example, if we construct a new gymnasium, new cafeteria, that can just happen at any time during the year. It would be some of the more interior things, restructuring that special services area, some of the remodels within that would occur during the summer months, probably over 2 summers. But I know in Jordan, we have done it where we just do it during the school year too. But right now, it's not looking like that would be where we have to go. But again, until we engage with an architect and really map out a plan, we wouldn't know that. And so next steps. Following this presentation, we have a resolution linked to the board agenda for action for this evening. Should you make the choice to approve that resolution, we will begin right away with communications with our staff and our community. We'll make sure that there's education for the tax impact, the scope of the projects, making sure folks know we're going to stay in alignment with that survey feedback, and then where and when to vote. We, this week, will then submit an RFP, which is a request for proposal, to our architecture firms across the state. And then the facilities committee in early February would be interviewing those architectural firms and making that decision so that should we have a positive outcome April 11th, we can hit the ground running. And then, of course, ongoing updates to staff and community. Are there any questions?
I would say we've talked about this a lot,
I know,
and again, to your point, we've been working on this.
We're thorough.
Since April, we've
Yeah.
had, we've gone through a lot of these steps to get to where we are today, so.
Yeah. You've been very intentional and very thorough, and that I know that everyone appreciates that.
I think the people have been intentional too, because
Yeah.
that's why we've had so many people respond. They're anxious to get us going.
Yep.
So I do have one technical question. So on the public announcement, what do we mean by the word acquisition? I think it's like a slide.
I didn't hear what question.
Oh, sorry, Lauren. I was wondering, so in the public announcement, so kind of that one paragraph that we have, I caught the word acquisition, just curious what we're referencing there.
So I remember the conversation that came directly from PMA. It's recommended in the language from Andrea, who writes these professionally. You know what, I'm gonna have to get back to you on why specifically we needed the word acquisition. I just know it's recommended to have it there for the technical language.
Right, and I
I'm
remember
sorry,
them
Rob.
saying that we want to have built-in flexibility in
Yep.
terms of if there's a surplus
Yeah.
and our ability to, how we use those dollars. I just want to make sure that we're very clear line of sight to everyone that's in the district of the intentionality of
Yeah.
how we're using these dollars.
Well, 100%. And again, my apologies. I know that was a lengthy conversation. I can't remember the technical reason that word is recommended to be part of our resolution with that. But you're absolutely right, because with this, we do need flexibility. Anytime that you make a decision like this, the interest rate is going to make a difference. And if things improve, we can do even more. And so we don't want to be tied to, we're only doing these things. And if rates look a different way, then we have to make those decisions too.
Right, I guess from my perspective, I don't think that we're gonna have so much of a surplus that there's gonna be a significant amount that we could do. Hopefully there'll be a little bit.
Yeah.
But the word acquisition in my mind goes to, are we purchasing an asset?
Yeah.
Or are we buying additional land? And I know
Yeah,
that that's
we're
not
not.
what we're doing.
Yeah, we're not. And we'll make sure, I think that's a good point, because in our communication with the public, I think we've been very intentional, and we will continue to be very intentional with the scope.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily have a problem with the word per se. I just want to make sure that we have a very clear response if that question is ever presented to us.
Yeah.
Right, and it's important that the public understands that, yeah.
Well, I think messaging is critical, and even as a part of my weekly, conversations on, how do we move forward? Because this is important, and this is an educational component that we'll be working on with the community. We need them to understand exactly what the scope is and what we're asking of them, so they can make an informed decision. And so I think that that's just part of the educational piece that we need to do.
Good comments. Okay, any other comments? This is a big action we're taking, exciting action. Any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution relating to determining the necessity of issuing general obligation bonds and calling for a special election on April 11th of 2023 in the amount of $34,990,000.
Motion to approve.
Sarah, is there a second?
Second.
Molly, okay, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Deb Polly,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Sarah Lehnen,
Yes.
Molly Maniak.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. That's exciting. Now the work begins, continues.
Yes.
Thank you, John. Thanks for being here tonight. Okay, item 8.5, 2023-2024 calendar. Superintendent Evenson.
Another exciting conversation. So we've been talking school calendar for a really long time. Typically, this is a process where, we have a couple of years drafted, and in this case, we needed to start from scratch. As a district, we were engaged in a flexible learning year calendar for the last 3 years. I know we've talked about this at a few board meetings. And since that has expired, our committee needed to develop a new calendar. And one of the things that was really inspiring about this work is, the committee was very focused on providing the best learning experience for students first and foremost. Additionally, there was great consideration for ongoing feedback from our community and our families. And so they worked to develop a very unique calendar, unique to our district, very similar to some neighboring district calendars, but unique to Jordan. And so presented before you, we have, and it says adopted because it's actually a draft. It's with the hopes that you adopt it. So we shouldn't have that on there because you haven't decided yet. But you can see that it meets all of the requirements for students, all of the requirements for staff. We have, it meets all of the educational requirements for minutes required by the state of Minnesota, and it starts after Labor Day and ends at Memorial Day. So this is a big shift for us as a district, but I think just with the feedback even from our curriculum and tech committee, from work session feedback, and just anecdotally what we hear from staff and folks in the community who have asked, I think folks will be pretty excited about it.
And we do all that and still have spring break.
Yes, that's true.
Lauren, I know you served on that committee. Do you have any comments?
No, I wasn't at the last meeting, I had conflict, but there has been multiple discussions around this calendar, and I think it's a really good choice.
Great. I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
I
it'll
think
be
it's
neat to
gonna
see
be
how it
great.
works.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
and can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
And that's a good point. So our committee actually will be getting back together probably in February to start drafting the next year so that we always have a draft that we can come to each school year. But we, of course, will evaluate. We'll look at how things have worked, what we want to tweak, and all of that moving forward. It's a very evaluative group, I would say. We have reps from each building. We have board representation, administrative representation, and they just really do a good job.
Great. Okay, any comments or questions before we go for a vote? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar as presented.
Motion to approve.
Lauren, is there a second? Second. Rob seconds. Okay, comments, questions?
There have been lots of people asking about the calendar on social media.
Oh,
I'm like,
really?
Talked about tonight, so.
Yeah,
Well, we will
people,
communicate it.
people plan vacations
Yeah.
really far out, so it's really important to them and
Yeah.
graduation and all those important events, so.
Yep.
Nice job to committee,
Yeah.
getting this done.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's a win-win. It really won't interfere too much with sports teams having to leave school early and stuff. It won't be much of a shift from where we're currently at, sports teams and activities and other activities, so. Good, good. Okay. Roll call, please.
Deb Polly,
Yes?
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Sarah Lehnen,
Yes.
Molly Maniak,
Yes.
Rob Langheim.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, review and act on Scott West field trip request.
All right. I am speaking tonight on behalf of our athletic director and wrestling coaches. So what they brought before you tonight is a preemptive, just in case. And so with our board policy for overnight trips and such, we're required to have, board approval for them to stay overnight. With ninth grade state tournament, we anticipate 4 to 5 individuals could qualify. They'd be looking at 1 to 3 wrestlers per room, 1 coach room, and then driving a district van for that event in the Anoka area. They put together the request for the section tournament. As of right now, we still don't have a confirmed location for the section individual tournament. Many schools are very close, but there could be some outliers and neutral sites. Well, that could really mean that we need to have an overnight trip just because of the distance and start time in the morning. And then MSHSL state tournament. We have traditionally sent individuals to state. This field trip request is the same as the past 10 years. Our costs will increase if we qualify as a team, which we hope we do. That would be a great problem to have. We do have a chance as a team this year, so that really could happen. Both districts split all costs on those trips, and we as districts provide the meal per diem for our state qualifiers. So this is preemptive. We have an awesome wrestling team, so I think it's probably going to happen. But we want to make sure we've got this request in.
And I'm just glad they're doing it preemptively. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Molly?
Second.
Connie seconds. Any further discussion or questions? Okay. Yes. Roll call, please.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Sarah Lehnen,
Yes.
Molly Maniak,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Deb Polly.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. On to our board and administrative reports. Superintendent Evenson.
All right, so I had a pretty lengthy report. I'm sure you've all read it, but just a couple of things I'll highlight from the report. I'm thinking about how we share our story, and our kids are incredible. I know I don't have to tell you that, but the amount of examples of our kids giving back to our community this month in particular is incredible. Here are some examples. Our preschool families donated items for students to put together in their 4th annual senior housing resident gift bags. They had helpful items such as lotion, socks, decks of cards. At Jordan Elementary School, our staff came together to donate funds to Jordan Family Outreach. The donations were matched by an outside donor and will be used for holiday gift cards for community families during this season. Also at JES, our 4th grade students and teachers are hosting a pajama drive. I don't know if you saw that. That's pretty neat. To benefit Minnesota Children's Hospital and Jordan Family Outreach. At Jordan Middle School, it's Giving Games this week, which is a fun activity. Each grade level is collecting items through Friday to donate to the Jordan Food Shelf and the JMS Backpack Program. Grade 5 is collecting juice, 6 is collecting crackers, 7 is collecting baking supplies, and 8 is collecting paper products. And then the staff is collecting cards, games, coloring supplies, puzzles, and socks. At Jordan High School and Jordan Middle School, the Spanish classes, 7 through 12, spend a few weeks annually. This is their 15th year, actually, raising money for Jordan Family Outreach. And students collect money from family, friends, businesses, and they've raised over $3,000. And, truthfully, I think about the strength of our community. And when we have strong schools, we have a strong community, and vice versa. And I feel like our kids are learning at a very early age how to give back to the community. So lots of pride there, and I wanted to mention that in my report.
That is very heartwarming and amazing. Our school does a great job with that, so kudos to the staff and the teachers and the students and the families supporting that. Personally, my residents at the Schul House have been recipients of the early childhood gifts. And it's unbelievable, and the joy that it brings to my tenants is absolutely heartwarming. It's just amazing, so generosity is great, so thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope,
Okay.
just
no.
as presented.
Great, thank you. Kaylin, before I jump on to the rest, let's get a report from you, please.
So the elementary school's been really busy. Last week, both preschool had a concert, and then first and second grade had a concert as well. They were really excited. It was really, everything went really well. Preschool was really excited. It was so cute to see them. High school concert, so the high school choir concert was last week. It went really well for them. The band concert is a week from today, so next Monday, the 19th. All of our winter sports has started. For Nordic skiing, we have a really good turnout from Jordan this year, and they already had their first meet. The Excel Award for the juniors, there were 2 juniors that won it, so Matt Randolph and Samara Jones, yay for them. The AAA Award will probably be announced this week for the seniors. The senior class is getting ready to graduate, getting everything set up. It's kind of weird, but everything's getting ready for us to graduate. And the Spanish students are still in the elementary school, so the Spanish class has been really, really busy recently.
Any questions for Kaylin? Great job. Thank you. Great report. Okay, any comments or questions about any of the other administrative reports? Just great job. They've all been super busy and good work, good work, good work. So on to school board member reports. I'll start. I'm going to start by thanking Connie. This is her last meeting. You're still on board though until until the first. And I know we honored you at the last meeting, but this is, our public meeting, so I just want to say it has been such an honor, and you have been just such a gift to this community and this board. And I know you're going to stay involved, and that you'll be very involved with the foundation and other aspects, and we just thank you so much for everything you've given. So I'll leave it at that, or I'll cry. Concerts have been great, really fun, the ones that I've been able to make. I attended the delegate assembly for MSBA 2 weeks ago, I think it was. So I'll pass these around. These are the legislative platforms that were voted on at delegate assembly. Basically, their platform will be, in addition to their current pink sheet platforms, they're going to be lobbying for an increase in the basic education formula by 5% each year and have it indexed to inflation. They are asking for fully funding special ed cross subsidy. Also, an increased equity of eroded equalization formulas, which are very, very complex formulas, and they're trying to standardize them better. They're asking for tools to transform and innovate our schools, like allowing for more flexible instructional hours, allowing schools to be online providers without having to go through a special application process, to increase career and technical opportunities and funding for those opportunities, to explore new funding eligibility mechanisms for free and reduced lunch, and to build a statewide plan for computer science education. Also, they're going to be lobbying for flexibility in funding and how we use our dollars, especially with renovated facilities, so that some of the long-term facility maintenance dollars can be used in the operating capital. They're going to, as always, they're going to be lobbying to empower local decision-making. And another thing is the school personnel licensure, the way that, because there's such a shortage of teachers, they want to allow districts to train and hire short call substitute teachers. So it's more in depth in here, but there'll be more coming on that. They do have the day at the Capitol set. It is March, no, I don't have it right in front of me. Yeah. So hopefully that's a day we can all get on our calendar and spend lobbying at the Capitol, and we'll have a very special person that we can go visit that we know personally, so that will be good. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was March 9th. So there'll be more to come on that. Let's see, what else do I have? Just a reminder that the Leadership Conference is January 12th and 13th, and so we'll look forward to spending some time as a board there. We'll be going out for dinner and doing some bonding and training and, yeah, just attending the conference together. I think that is all I have. Our January meeting will be January 9th. That will be our organizational meeting. And I will be sending out, now that Jen and Corinne have school email addresses, I'm going to be sending out a survey on what committees you are interested in. No promises that you'll get the committees you're interested in, because we're going to have some shuffling now with Ryan and Connie going off the board. So we'll be doing some shuffling, but I just thought it would really be good to do an interest survey, and there'll be a description of the committees attached to it. I've met with Superintendent Evenson, and there's 1 or 2 committees that we're just getting rid of because they don't meet. So, yeah. So watch for that to come and then get that back to me. If you want to discuss anything in person, always give me a call. So with that, Connie.
I was just recovering from my knee replacement, and but I did want to take a second just to say that it was a joy and honor to get to know all of you better and to serve our community. I think our finance report says everything. I know the January report will be coming out of which graduates are waiting to walk across the stage. I hope all of them are. And as always, I'll be Jordan School's biggest cheerleader, and I will support you guys in anything and everything that you need. I look forward to the referendum passing. I look forward to the new board members taking their spots. Sign up for everything. Sign up for every committee, every training, anything that you can go to. I have never attended something, maybe the Melcher finance report the very first year I was a board member, way over my head. But other than that, I've never regretted going to something. If I didn't understand the training, I always met new people. And I have people throughout the state that I can call my friends that I met through being a board person. At the end of the night, always remember that you look in the eyes of every child of our district, and remember that you've done the best that you could do for each one of them and their families and our stakeholders. So an honor and privilege to serve the Jordan School District and you as fellow board members. Thank you for that opportunity.
Oh, I'd have to follow that. I cried the last one, so I'm not going to, so I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. You know, I echo what Deb said, and I thank you so much for all of your hard work, dedication to the staff, students, the admin, the district, you know, the Jordan School District. I thank you so much for that. And Ryan's not here, but I thank him as well. I said that, you know, the last time in our workshop, but I thank both of you guys for all of your hard work and dedication. And I also welcome Jenny and Corinne, you know, coming in next month. So welcome to that.
I got nothing.
Yeah, double times 2, or ditto times 2.
Okay, we've got to go through the committee reports, budget finance. Oh, Lauren.
Working with you on the board for these last many years that you've been on has been a pleasure. You are one of my favorites. You are so cheerful, and you always find the right You will be missed, and I am sorry I am not there, to say goodbye, at the last meeting. And otherwise than that, I don't have anything
Yep.
else.
Enjoy your two-year break.
Yes,
Look
it-
forward
right,
to
exactly.
2024.
Yeah. And this is not goodbye. This is see you at committee meetings and stuff. So, okay, on to committee things. We kind of really hit budget and finance hard tonight. Calendar we covered already. Community ed and rec. Lauren or Sarah, did you guys meet?
I'm pretty sure they met, but I wasn't able to attend. I was gonna get back up to speed when I got back in town from Stephen.
Yeah, they met last Wednesday, and neither of us could attend. She was out of town, and I was at Beauty and the Beast.
Oh,
So,
fun. Okay, curriculum and tech. We did not meet. We're meeting in February, I believe, yes. Facilities has not met, but we will be meeting. Yes. Meet and confer has not had any reason to meet. Policy,
We'll meet again in January.
yep,
yeah, we just approved everything that we talked about, so.
yep. I was not able to attend the last APAC. Was there anything?
Oh my gosh, I was there. Yeah, the last APAC, I think they reviewed the curriculum, and I think Sarah had pulled together some slides. She's starting to work on a newsletter for enhancing communication to APAC families. So
Okay,
I think that's something we'll see coming forward.
Good, thank you. Booster, Rob and Sarah.
Yeah, we met a couple of weeks ago. We're going to meet again next week, looking to solidify the 2023 kind of plan for what we're looking to do. A couple of other things that we're working through, but all good.
Great, good, thank you. Education Foundation, Molly or Connie?
I think I have, next Sunday night, I think I have a Zoom meeting for the gala. So that's with us together.
Do they have a date for that, or a tentative
No, I don't,
timeframe?
I don't think,
We're starting to kind of try to think about something around the homecoming timeframe, just to be able to try to, if we can, create some synergy of some people that are going to be coming back to the campus. Trying to find kind of a nice spot where we could have a gala in between some of the other events that tend to occur kind of annually. So we're trying to be a little bit sensitive to all of those kinds of dynamics, and really great opportunity of just finding a synergy between Education Foundation, Booster Club, and the district, really just trying to hit on kind of the missions of each of the three entities.
Great, thank you. Legislative, we hit, MSHSL, nothing really there going on. Scale,
I was there on Friday morning. There were presenters from Bolton and Mink, I believe, and they were talking about really cities of the future and all of that. I think I put a lengthy description in my weekly update, so I know you're up to speed on that. But
Right.
it was a nice meeting.
good. And Southwest Metro did not meet since our last meeting, so I think that's it. So Connie, you have the honor.
move to adjourn.